didn't really know what it was, and they just thought I was doing like karate classes. I'm sure that's what they just thought I was doing karate classes. Just doing that. It wasn't until I went to Japan for the first time and came back, and I was in the magazine, in the Japanese magazine, and then they were like, "Oh, what is really like? This is a big deal, huh?" Then they realized it was kind of a big deal. Obviously, we never really talked about it much. They just never wanted to see me get hurt. But I know that they would brag to their friends about me because I'd hear about that. Like their friends, "Oh, your mother told me this. Your mother," but they never really said anything to me about it in terms of anything. They just always instilled in us, find something you want to do and find a way to make money at it. And I sure did.
Let me ask you a question. When you first walked into your first dojo, what was going into your mind? Did you have a little fear? Was you anxious? I always like asking people this question because the reason why I ask the same 3 questions to anybody, one, because I'm lazy and I don't want to, figure out a bunch of questions now. Because the questions are the same, but the answers are always different. So how was your when you first walked in, what was it? Especially because you said you was young, shyer and everything. So how'd that work out for you, Dean?
So the first dojo that I ever really truly walked into was Conan Silvera's gym down in South Beach in Miami. And I found out that he had a gym in Miami. And it's an hour and a half, 2 hours from Port St. Lucie. So I drove down there with my sister actually. And I was like, all right, let me see what this is about. And I'm looking inside, I'm like trying to peek inside. And Conan Silvera comes out. I'm still trying to peek inside. I'm seeing like all these, sweaty Brazilian dudes doing cartwheels and they're running, doing their warm-ups. And I'm like, and then Conan Silvera comes out and like he had already been fighting on TV. He had fought and won that World Extreme Fighting title. He was like the heavyweight champ. So I was like, oh my God, it's Conan Silvera. So, but I was nervous, but I was so excited to get started. And then he was like, yeah, it's $100 and something a month. You give me 12 checks already pre-written, and you can start. And I was like, dang, I ain't got that kind of money. I ain't know, I was like, and I'm still trying to grind. I'm young. I'm 19 years old. I'm like, dang. So, I never actually trained there. That was just the first time I went into a gym, and I was excited and nervous. But then I was like, man, this is more of a commitment than I thought. And I was like, I don't know if I could pay $120 a month and drive to Miami twice a week. That was kind of a lot.
Yeah.
And then that's when I saw the shoot fighting over at Dragon's Karate.
Yep.
Right after that. And I was like, oh my God, as fate would have it. And I wasn't nervous at all. I walked in like, bring on the bodies.
Yeah.
Because
and
like
his prices wasn't even that bad.
No,
his prices wasn't even that bad.
Sorry. No, they weren't bad. His prices weren't bad. And it was right down the street from my house. And I had been going to seminars, so I had like learned some jiu-jitsu stuff. And me and Paul Rodriguez had been practicing in my backyard. And so like I had already had like a small little base. Yeah. So I was like, bring on the bodies. Where's the food at?
Yeah, where's the food at? Yeah, I'm hungry.
Yeah. So that's how it really started. I wasn't nervous, man. I always was just like, let's put it to the test.
Yeah, and which the place that you went to was also under Bart Val, right? Down in Miami.
Yeah, he gave me my first cauliflower ear, actually.
Really?
So I remember, Victor Diodato, we did a training session down there. He took us down there, and I remember sparring with Bart Val. He was 260, and he clubbed me in the ear, man, and my ear blew up for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, I'm doing this. I'm like, this is my first cauliflower ear after like 4 months of doing training and of martial arts. But I also sparred with a kid, and this is a weird little story. I sparred with a kid down there who I just absolutely destroyed. Then I ended up fighting him as an amateur, and he beat me. And I was like, oh my God. So that's when I realized that training and fighting are different.
Yeah, most definitely. And what is it? It's a puncher's chance. Everybody's got that puncher's chance. I mean, look at the upsets, throughout, UFC or anybody or just mixed martial arts period. Look at the upsets that nobody was thinking. Even your student Gillian.
Yeah.
People probably didn't give her a big a look over because she was a smaller girl at the time when she first started, correct?
Well, she still is, and to be honest, like she's not an athlete. She's never played a sport before. She doesn't come from a background of athletics. So she comes from a background of quiet, shy girl who wanted to be a veterinarian, who played with animals. So that's why I'm convinced that martial arts can work for anybody. Like people are always like, oh, I would try it, but I'm not in shape. I'm like, that's not why you do martial arts, really. Like, you don't have to be in shape to do it. And living proof of that. It's for anybody. Anybody can learn it. Anybody can do it. I always think like, man, I can teach a monkey how to fight.
But that monkey would take you to town though if you really wanted to.
No. I'm like, it don't need my skills. It'll just bite my face off.
No, that's also what I'm working on too. Is that I'm doing smaller videos, but I'm gonna start gearing them up to help people that are bigger, that want to learn self-defense. Geared to hey. There's a different stance between you and there's a different stance between me, because of your size and my size, especially in self-defense. So somebody needs to teach them, and I have the knowledge on that because I had to sit there and switch things around, correct? So that's what I'm doing. I want to do that just because helping people.
And I'm a firm believer in that too. Is it like not all martial arts is the same for everybody? It's always like it's an art, so everybody's art's going to be different. And we have different body types, we have different personalities, and our art should not look the same. Like
no, and it shouldn't. No. So, Dean, let's go into your first cage match, your first MMA bout. How was that going through your head? And where was that at? Was that the first one in Japan, you said, or did you have a couple warm-ups in between?
Well, so I had been doing like we had been doing these shoot fighting matches.
Okay, yeah.
So I can even go back to that. So my very first shoot fighting match was in Miami, in Hialeah. It was Gus Pereira's shoot fighting fights. And I fought a guy by the name of Ilian Rodriguez, who was a judo black belt. And he still works for the boxing commission to this day.
Really?
Yeah, and this was 1996. He still works for the boxing commission to this day. He was the very first guy that I fought, and I see him all the time. And he's like, and we have this bond because we fought each other. And I mean, I wasn't nervous. I mean, I think it was because I was so young and dumb that I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. And for me, it was just like, I just pretended like I was in the UFC. I just, like as I'm in my walkout, I'm pretending like I'm those guys that are in the UFC walking out. Like that was how I processed it. So that really ate away my nerves because I didn't look at it as like I'm in a fight. I'm looking at it like I'm one of them guys in the UFC.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go out there. Like I guess that is a way to deal with it, is to be unrealistic about it. And then I remember I started to fight off and I said, I'm going to run right at him and just charge him. And I did. And I thought I was going to knock him out. This is what everybody thinks. If I just hit him, I'm going to knock him out. I ran right at him, trying to flying knee punch him. And he grabbed me and took me down. And I was like, oh my, this is not how it happened in my head.
Different. You're like, oh man, this is a different world than what I was thinking, right?
Yeah, like this is not how it happened in my head. So he took me down. He passed my guard with ease. I had never had anybody pass my guard like that. He mounted me, but I was tough and I understood the fundamentals of combat. So he couldn't get a submission on me. I was able to get out. Then I got back up to my feet, and then I was much better on my feet. And I'm punching him all over the place. Then he took me down again. I get back up, punch him all over the place, and when that happened for 3 rounds, Him take me down, me punch him. It ended up being a draw. It ended up being a draw, and I was like, okay, I can live with that. I can live with that. So that's when I realized that like this was kind of fun. And honestly, like I had never been nervous before a fight up until probably after my loss to BJ. Because prior to that, like maybe in Japan a little bit, but prior to that, like I was so unrealistic about the whole situation that I was just kind of naive and ignorant to it. The ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Then after I got knocked out, after I got knocked out, I realized I was human and can be knocked out. And then it was like, people are watching and they're gonna make fun of me.
So let me ask you this. Your sister obviously was a big push in your martial art career, right? Especially with the UFC and stuff like that. How was your very first, here you're training, you're already thinking you want to be in the UFC, blah, 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 right? Then your first match in the UFC. How was that? You're in the back room warming up. What's going through your head?
I'm a big advocate of manifestation. And I remember I drove to UFC in Birmingham, Alabama to watch Mark Coleman and Maurice Smith fight. I drove there. And I remember standing in line outside to get in thinking, one day, people are going to be standing out here to watch me fight. And that's what I thought. And I said, it's going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. And then when I first got the call to UFC, I had gotten a call before because they wanted me to fight Jens Pulver for the lightweight title. And I turned it down to fight in Hawaii, to fight Bozo Pauling in Super Brawl in Hawaii. But then I got the call again and they wanted me to fight Genki Sudo. And I accepted that fight. Genki Sudo got hurt 3 weeks prior. They changed the opponent to BJ Penn. That was my first fight in the UFC. And I was so excited. I was like, this is happening for me. Like, this is what I'm meant to do. Like, this is like, it's written. Like, that's what I thought. It was just written because like I had done everything that I could possibly do to get to that point. And I dedicated my entire life. Like I didn't do anything else really, except for focus on fighting, training, read books on it, watch videos, learn wherever I could learn. And when I got to the UFC, I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah.
So it wasn't even more. It wasn't even more that she was like nervous. You're like, I'm home. This is where all that hard work put me to.
Yeah, and I was like, this is what life is for me. This is what I'm supposed to do. And then I lost. I got knocked out. And then I was like, that wasn't supposed to happen. Why did that happen? And then I'm thinking like, so then it put things in a perspective that everything's cause and effect. You can manifest things, but don't mean it's gonna be easy.
Yeah, most definitely. Now let me ask you this: you have a son, and he's still in high school, or did he graduate already?
He's graduating this year. This is last year.
Okay, he's into what, soccer?
Yeah,
and things like that. Does he train, or is that more dad's thing, and he's something else?
No, he doesn't train. He still does his soccer. Like every once in a while, we'll move around a little bit, but he doesn't train. Like all for him, it's about being the best fighter on the soccer field. That's it.
There you go. Right. Yeah. The thing is soccer is getting bigger in the United States, anyways, with their teams, because there's a team in Orlando, and there's a couple bigger cities, right?
Yeah.
What's
they
that?
got obviously the league, the MLS here.
Yeah.
So soccer pitch. Let me clarify. Yeah, he just has to be the best fighter on the